If you're currently an agency targeting local contractors and they're not showing up to a call, you need to do this ASAP. Imagine this scenario. So right now you're probably getting leads left and right from Facebook ads, cold outreach, cold emails, and something like that. And then calls are getting booked on your calendar, and then you see your calendar, it has 4 to 8 calls every single day. You currently sit at your desk for 8 hours of those calls because, as you know, if you have a 30-minute block, you probably can't do much. You can't really go outside, and you currently have that time blocked out. However, what's happening is 1 out of 5 contractors are showing up to that call. But how do you really fix this? I was in a very similar boat where a lot of local contractors are not showing up to the call. So there's 3 different levers that we can tackle in order to actually have a contractor show up. So let's talk about the first lever, how your leads actually are. So for the most part, if your lead is generally on beginning side of actually running a business, they're probably not going to show up to a call. For the most part, every single lead that has an office, that has everything, that has a staff, they're going to show up to a call because they're established business owners. So if you have leads that aren't established business owners, they're probably not going to show up and they don't really respect another business owner's time. One thing you need to do is actually make it harder for people to book in as a lead. Because right now, like a lot of people, they might just be scrolling on Facebook and then they see an ad, they opt in, they book a call, and then the next day they completely forget about it. Or they're at their job site, which happens a lot, or they're currently in their truck. This has happened multiple times with local contractors because I've been in the market for a couple of years now. Next thing is the cost per lead, cost per book calls, all vanity metrics. The only true thing that matters is CAC. So even if you pull different levers of increasing your cost per lead, however, if your cost per acquisition goes down, you're doing something right. Whenever you look at the cost per lead, a lot of people are basing their ad decisions off cost per lead. But in reality, you need to base it off customer acquisition costs, and that's the true thing that matters. So what are the steps to actually take in order to accomplish this? Number 1 is more conditional qualifying questions. So you need to qualify the leads a little bit harder, even if it were to increase your cost per lead. So for example, something would be higher revenue per month mark, because as you know, a lot of people are going to lie on that form. So whether it's in your creative or you call out any pool builder above 80K, above 100K per month, you need to bump that up a little bit. For us, we usually like to keep it at 80K because if you take a look, and then they make around 20% profit margins, they're taking home 20K a month in profit. So you really need to bump it up. So even if you call out an audience that has like 10K, in reality, they're probably only taking home 2K a month. So you really need to bump that up. And in your creative, you could call that out, but also in the qualifying questions, you could call that out as well. So that way you have 2 different avenues, and a lot of people, they're just going to lie still, but for the most part, 80-90% of the leads that come in are going to be above that revenue mark. The next thing you can do is basically qualify based on marketing budgets. So let's say you're running Facebook ads for their client and they have to put up ad spend. You could basically mention whether they have 50, $100 per day allocated towards Facebook or allocated towards Facebook ads or marketing budget. We can conditionally disqualify every single person that basically has $0 to their name and doesn't want to spend any money on marketing. Because for the most part, if you hop on a sales call with those type of people, one thing is you have to convince them that your thing is better than other agency. And then the next thing you have to convince them is they have to put up the ad spend. So it's fighting 2 front war. So if you qualify them prior, they know that they need to spend money, but it's a matter of like, who do they spend money with, you or another agency? The next thing you can do is actually make the form and questions longer. You can add more questions to the form, so it's actually a higher barrier to actually fill out the form and opt in as a lead. And then the last lever I would pull is actually moving over to a landing page lead instead of a Facebook lead form. So I can show you an example of what we do in terms of actually moving them over to a landing page. So this is an example funnel of what we've done when we were targeting agencies to try to white label our AI SEO tool. This funnel is currently not in progress, but for example, one big call out is basically like how we're currently doing XYZ without XYZ. And then watch this video, which we have a very short VSL, probably 2 to 3 minutes. And then we put it on double the speed as well. And then check if you qualify, some testimonial bar here, and then this form. So here is a bunch of qualifying questions. So if you're below 5K a month, we probably disqualify you. But then your company name, you can type XYZ, your full name, and then the best email, and then you can add more and more questions depending on what type of the quality you're noticing on a week-to-week basis, and then you could optimize your funnel to do that. After that, they'll basically get taken to a calendar page where we're going to have an FAQ. So let me go over to that page. So the FAQ will be similar to this. Basically, what is Lead Oracle? Why are y'all different? Why should I trust you? Who's this for? Who's this not for? How do you do this? Is there a commitment? How much does it cost? And then it takes them to a calendar page. So this is where they'll book in, and then they'll get taken over to a video confirmation page, which in the video confirmation page, basically I tell them that they need to show up to the call or else we're going to blacklist you. So let me show you an example of that video confirmation page. So this is an example of the video confirmation page where basically watch this mandatory video or we're going to cancel our call. And in this, we basically tell them to show up, give them case studies in that video because you really have to sell the call, especially if it's on cold traffic. After that, basically it's a step on how to actually accept the calendar invite, add it to a calendar, and then a couple of videos that they can watch down below that you'll make in terms of nurturing them, answering any questions, but then you also send them out as an email flow. So now let's go into the second lever that we could pull, so follow-ups. So we need to bombard them with emails. This is one thing that I've learned from Jeremy Haynes that scales companies to $1 million per month. All the emails that he sends people are basically any questions that will come up before a sales call. And he does like 3 emails a day until the person actually books, or an email every 3 hours before a person actually goes into the call. So example of questions is basically why trust us, why XYZ is important for your business, why XYZ contractors are stuck, and then why you're different from other people. Basically any objection that you see in the sales call, you're going to have to create basically content around that and then email them that content prior to a call. And then one thing that he does is also doing Facebook ads. So after a call gets booked, essentially you'll fire that schedule pixel, and then you can make a video view ad of basically 10 to 20 short form content. And then once a person actually views one of the videos, you can exclude them from the audience. And then you'll show them a new piece of content on Facebook. So here, basically, you could create a custom audience. If you go over here, press next, and then all website visitors or people that have scheduled. So select whatever pixel you are, people that have scheduled onto a call. And then you could do a 30-day exclusion. You could do a 30-day retention, name it basically everybody that's scheduled. And then whenever you actually run the Facebook ad, you'll target these people. And then once you have 10 to 20 different ads, you'll exclude every single person from the other ads that's watched it. Or let's say they've watched 25% of it or 50% of it, and then you could go from there. And then this is pretty simple. And then you can also exclude people that's already purchased as well. So the last lever we can pull is basically content. Right now we're living through a trust recession. So essentially human trust has been its lowest between human to human trust it's ever been in history. So how can we really combat that? So you really need content, YouTube, long form content, short form content in terms of like case studies, address any questions, objections that might come up before a sales call. And that way you try to get them to consume as much content as possible, because a lot of agencies aren't actually producing long form content, and that's why they're failing. So if you do all these 3 levers, you're going to increase your show up rates from 20% upwards to 70, 80%. This is what we've done to pull different levers. This is what's going to separate you from other agencies. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you're interested in learning more things about running an agency, AI agency, and also attach a school community down below where you could join like-minded people. And then we also have weekly coaching calls, and you'll get our entire systems, end-to-end sales scripts, ads, and everything. And I'll catch you in the next video.